Good.
See for quorum. Oh, wait, but if you guys are the other one, then this is like American Idol here. I'm just
We're
over here and you
live.
guys are, all right.
Right. It's Monday, February 4th, and the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee is now in session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Wilshire is here. Alderman Lopez.
Here.
Alderman Gidge. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Also in attendance is His Honor Mayor Jim Donchis and City Clerk Tricia Piazza. Okay. Do we have any public comment? No one's here. So we will do some interviews. Mr. Mayor, would you please bring your... Thank you. Good
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you have before you the three nominees for the Arts Commission, Bill Berry, Sarah Caesar, and Jennifer Latouche. I think you are familiar possibly with all of them, but Bill, of course, is an attorney in town. He's been on many civic organizations, president of the Rotary Club, past and future, and you can see from his biography all of the things, the soup kitchen and everything else that he's been involved in. And I think he would make a very positive contribution to the Arts Commission. As you know, we are a community that is very committed to the arts and has a very active arts organization, but the commission can play a role in enhancing that even further. Sarah Caesar who is on the far left. She works now and has worked for the New Hampshire Institute of Art for some years in various roles. She also works with her husband Sid, who is a photographer in the city, and they have their place of business at the Pine Street Extension with the picker artists in that space, and I think she also will be a great addition to the Arts Commission. And we have Jennifer Latouche, who is an interior designer, has a degree in interior design, and is active in that field, and also has a lot of experience in terms of just design and other artistic endeavors. So I think what I will do, with your permission, Madam Chair, is just ask each of the three people to give you a short statement as to why they're interested in the commission and anything else they would like to add.
Please do. Thank you.
And why don't we just start with, why don't we go in the order, Bill, Sarah, Jennifer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members. My name is Bill Barry. I'm a Nashua native. I'm 59 years old. Will be 60 this fall. I have grew up, lived, and worked in Nashua with my spouse. I have always had an interest in arts. We presently hold tickets to the Broadway Across America down in Boston, the Merrimack Repertoire Theater. We're a member of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, as well as the Curry Museum. I've seen firsthand what arts can do for a community. It can be an economic engine, and it can also humanize a community. I think we have a very strong, vibrant arts field here in Nashua, and I think it is becoming a destination spot with all the art sculpture we have, the numbers of different organizations that feed our city. I think an art can humanize a community. It can bring life to people. I'm always amazed at what I have no talent in that area, no talent musically, no talent artistically, but I always appreciate what others can do. And we recently attended the symphony two weeks ago, and just the beautiful music can just set your mind in a different place. And I think that's what arts can do, and I would like to offer whatever humble abilities I have to make the arts community stronger here in Nashua.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? Alderman Lopez.
I mean, first of all, I'm looking at all the committees you're on. You do have time to go, right? You
Well,
have a pretty busy schedule here.
so what I'm doing now is I do Pride. I coach Special Olympics for the Pride Plus teams. I am in the Rotary Club, and those are really my two activities right now. A lot of those are past committees that I've done. I've been when you're an attorney, you can be pulled into things for your expertise and free legal advice, and I've done it to numerous organizations over time. So I do have the time. I think it's I just checked my schedule today. It's every month, Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10:30. And I own my own business. I'm flexible enough in my work that I can attend the meetings and participate.
Okay, and I guess my second question might not work then, because if you're not currently on the President's Circle of Riviera,
Oh,
were you?
yes, that's what I'm on also. I'm
Oh.
sorry. I'm trustee of Riviera. I forgot that.
So I guess my question then was, Riviera used to have an art program where they would have art studios, art students.
Yeah.
I mean, are you aware of what exactly transpired to discontinue that program?
That
Do you
was
believe I mean, they still maintain their studio. I mean, their art studio. So
right. That was prior to me serving on the Board of Trustees and the President's Circle. They discontinued that.
do you have any knowledge if they are interested in partnering to support arts in the community?
It hasn't come up in my trusteeship meetings. Right now, we're focusing on rebuilding the Science Center to enhance the nursing program, pre-med program, and the likes. But it hasn't been addressed.
Okay. Well, personally, you have a pretty impressive series of experiences on board, so I'm sure that will be very beneficial to, the National Arts Commission and its work. So I appreciate the time and your willingness to volunteer your legal expertise for free.
Thank you.
Alderman Wilshire.
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to thank you for stepping forward. I know you always step forward to do things that help the community, so this is no different. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. I get more back than I give, to tell you the truth.
Nice. Thank you.
And I also want to thank all three of you for your willingness to step forward to volunteer on these boards and commissions. And Mayor, you have brought three exceptional people again to us for presentation. And I did serve with Mr. Barry on the Senior Center Board, and he does bring his knowledge to that group. And I also supervised him when he tried to be a coach in basketball. So,
Yes.
How was his record?
very good. He did have a good record, Mayor. Yes, I have to say that. Thank you so much. Okay, so
Why don't we go
now,
to Sarah?
Sarah, thank you. You can pull that closer to you, Sarah, so you can, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm Sarah Caesar. I was born and raised in Nashua. I still live here. Growing up, was always involved with the arts. I went to college for visual art. I am currently a practicing visual artist. I recently worked for New Hampshire Institute of Art for 10 years. I currently work for United Way of Greater Nashua. In my role at New Hampshire Institute of Art, over the last 2 years that I was working there, I worked with alumni and practicing artists in the region, trying to offer professional development opportunities for them. So I offered like marketing classes and networking classes. I arranged speakers to come in to talk about that kind of thing. And in that role, I really saw the necessity of having that sort of thing for artists, of being able to support artists in their work as business people. And I feel that's something that's really important for small, like nonprofits in the area to provide for people. So I'd really like to look at some of the grants that are available to nonprofits and see if there are any organizations in the area that work to support the artists. I'm also very interested in expanding the reach of some of these arts nonprofits in the area through marketing and that kind of thing as well. So yeah, I'm really interested. I see a lot of potential in Nashua, and I'd like to work to try to increase that potential and try to bring more people that are interested in the arts to Nashua from other regions also to kind of expand Nashua's potential to other people in the area.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Alderman Lopez.
Wasn't there a recent shift with Institute of Art where they're working to collaborate with another school?
Yes. So I believe starting in January, they merged with New England College in Henniker. So they weren't doing very well financially. So they had to merge with another college. And so they have a big shift going on at this point. The president of the school just stepped down.
Is there any interest in working in this region to cultivate emerging artists? You know, I mean, it's not really a subtle link that I'm drawing here, where I think the art student and the schools that we used to have that really fed our art community have kind of gone away. So,
I don't think, well, actually, there had been a little bit of research done under the previous president's administration, kind of trying to figure out if there was a way to expand into other regions of the state. But I think because the school is changing so much right now, I don't think that's a possibility. They do have a place in Peterborough. The Sharon Arts Center is part of New Hampshire Institute of Art. So they did see some growth there as far as classes go, but I don't think that they're looking at Nashua at this point. But I would love to have arts classes in Nashua, and I would love to have some sort of a place where artists can go to teach arts classes if they want to teach independently. Right now, there doesn't seem to be any kind of place like that.
open studio or anything?
No open studios for people that want to just teach classes. So that would be a great thing to have available at some point in the future.
Well, since Mayor Donches is sitting right there, I'm just going to make the obvious comment that I think it might be a role, or at least an influence, that can be contributed by the National Arts Commission to try to stimulate that kind of interest in this area, because I mean, it depends on who you're funding and how you're allocating the grants and what your priorities are as a commission, but we could revitalize our younger artist community with attention to the right kind of programming.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think that having spaces for artists to work to affordable studio spaces is very important as well. I know some, like Lowell, for instance, they offer living and working spaces for artists. And I think that's very helpful for a lot of people, especially artists that are starting out to have places where they can live and work and be able to afford what they're doing, at least to start out with.
Well, I don't want to overplay my interview hand here, but I will point out that both the Picker Building and Make It Labs are likely partners for that. Make It Labs particularly has approached arts organizations in the past interested in creating a similar space to that. And I mean, art is typically looked at as a talent, but it's also a craft, and there's a lot of skill involved. And if you combine people who have strong strengths in the trade skills or engineering with artists, you're going to see amazing things happen. So
Yeah,
thank you
yeah,
for being willing
sure.
to give your time.
My pleasure.
I feel like I talked more than asked, so.
Thank you. Alderman Wilshire.
I don't have any questions, but again, your resume is very impressive, and I want to thank you for coming forward and your willingness to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor.
And Jennifer?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Latouche. I have a career, I've built my career on serving residential clients for kitchen and bath remodeling with my degree in interior design. But I'm currently in school at New Hampshire Institute of Art for the field of creative placemaking. So I've been involved in the community through the Nashua Chamber and organizations like the Home Builders, working for a small business, really understanding kind of how we fit in the bigger picture. And through that, I've actually been on the board of Opera New Hampshire for the past year as well, which has been very exciting. Through my schoolwork that I'm currently attending, I've been doing a lot of reading and research, and I'm a supporter of the state initiative of Stay Work Play, and I think it's important to, have Nashua keep doing what it's doing and keep on trend with its success so far in trying to retain young people here. I think there's a lot going on. But from where I'm coming from, I've, I've, I'd really like to see some art making experiences because they seem to encourage civic engagement more so than just experiences as an audience member. And there's been studies showing that people who have built their identities around civic engagement also often credit arts experiences as significant to their development. So I think the two go really hand in hand. And as I'm new to the civic arena, I'd like to be kind of the bridge gapping some of the organizations or the people because I'm kind of just representing myself, no one, sector. And I've just been a huge fan of the arts my whole life, from theater and music and fine arts, and just a big consumer of those things. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Any comments? Alderman Lopez.
Yeah, I'm very enthusiastic about the comments that you just made, particularly. So I myself am an artist, I was on the founding board of Positive Street Art. I've painted with them for like 7 years now. And a lot of the comments with regards to civic engagement were why Positive Street Art is so well received in the city and why it's so engaged, as well as placemaking, because some of their earlier projects on Ash Street, where they were working with the health department, they were a series of, initially connected, but then unconnected as the years continued to go. But essentially, a lot of what they did on Ash Street was placemaking. They were able to put a mural up in a skate park where the youth in the area were a little bit resistant to government monitoring of that. They insisted that that park be called Ghetto Park, and the mural ultimately was a compromise to call it Graffiti Park. We worked with the health department to create a large mural of it's called the Garden Giant, of a girl eating a tomato, which complements community gardens that PAL runs and activates a corner that was previously not very well kept up, not very well maintained, didn't have that positive space use. And I mean, the applications on that street just keep going. There's another partnership where Positive Street Art and NeighborWorks partnered to upgrade a performance platform so that now music groups can be in it. So I think placemaking has a tremendous, it represents a tremendous opportunity for our city. But in engaging communities to develop those spaces rather than just doing it to them, having volunteers come out, I think that has huge engagement opportunity. I can say in my other roles where I constantly have teams of volunteers coming in wanting to do stuff in the community, one of the first things people ask is, can I paint a mural? Can I do some kind of art project? It's where people gravitate towards. It's how they want to express.
I agree completely. I mean, Positive Street Art's done an amazing job, and it's a huge driving force. And I'd like to see, things like more attendance at our festivals because they're amazing, and more retention of young people after they're educated here in the state and Nashua to stay here. And I just see a lot of connections. I have ideas too for placemaking projects that I think with the right help could be something that we could do. So things that involve multiple generations, multiple, cultural with things that sometimes divide people in order to kind of bring them together for collective. I think we have a lot of silos where people are in the little sections of the world, and I think Nashua is a great place for people to, once they're in kind of one area, they have no idea the amount of spiral that will happen with meeting others, that everybody kind of knows each other, but you meet them in these small dribs and drabs. So I think bringing together community in larger form can be really powerful.
Well, I definitely encourage you to check out the section of Ash Street between West Hollis and Central. And then June 15th, we're having our Tree Streets Block Party, which is very much along the lines of trying to bring artistic expression, community engagement, and breaking those silos down. One of the things that we like to recognize, individual cultures have their own form of self-expression, but they have commonalities. So the rice tasting competition, everyone makes rice some way or the other. So having everybody compare their different menus brings that food option in. having different performers and music brings the music side in. You're surrounded by murals, you're surrounded by culture, you're even surrounded by different age demographics. We have an elderly community right on the doorstep of the PAL Center and all that. So definitely check it out if you have time.
Great, thank
And
you.
thank you for your willingness to participate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you for stepping forward to volunteer. Your resume is impressive as well as the others. I like the creativity and bringing people together is really important, and I think that's going to take you far and take the city far. So thank you for your willingness to do this. Appreciate it.
I want to thank you for attending our meeting. We will be voting later on for your appointments, and if you're all approved, you'll be sworn in next Tuesday at the regular session of the Board of Aldermen. And again, thank you so much for volunteering to serve on that committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Was that long enough, Mayor? Okay, communications?
We have none?
Okay, application to license hawkers, peddlers, vendors license.
We have none?
Okay, appointments by the mayor.
I'll do that. I will
Okay.
move to recommend the confirmation of the following appointments by the mayor. Jean Addy, are we confirming her?
Yeah, because she's just a reappointment.
Okay, Jean Addy to the Cultural Connections Committee for a term to expire December 31st, 2021. Richard Gillespie to the Mine Falls Park Advisory Committee for a term to expire December 31st, 2021. And to the National Arts Commission, William H. Berry III and Sarah Caesar for terms to expire April 1st, 2019. Paul Laflamme for a term to expire April 1st, 2020, and Jennifer Latouche for a term to expire February 1st, 2021.
Any discussion? Alderman Lopez.
Gene Ady has served on the Cultural Connections Committee. Is Richard Gillespie already on? Is that just a reappointment?
Yes, he's a reappointment,
Okay,
and so isn't Paul Laflamme.
just checking. I know in the past we've had comments that people should at least present if it's a first-time appointment, so I just wanted to be clear that this was not that.
No? Any other? Okay, all in favor of these appointments?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And I will
Motion-
make, motion carries.
Yeah, motion carries, I'm sorry.
And I will make a motion to table the appointment of Margaret Lorette to the Cultural Connections Committee.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. So appointments by the President of the Board of Aldermen,
I have a point of order I just thought of.
certainly.
The mayor might be able to tell us actually. My understanding is the organization of the Cultural Connections Committee is due to change. So are we appointing to people?
Mayor? Alderman Lopez has a question. Concerning the
With regards
Cultural
to the
Committee?
Cultural Connections Committee, we're looking at reappointing people and appointing new people. But it was my understanding that the committee and the Gate City Initiative are merging. Okay, so I was reading the minutes of the last meeting, and that's why I thought it was taking effect in February. So, okay, I just wasn't sure how that would play with us appointing people.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
all right, see you later.
Okay. Okay, appointments by the President of the Board of Aldermen.
I will move to recommend the confirmation of the following appointments by the President of the Board of Aldermen. Mary Green and Arthur Olson for terms to expire December 31st, 2020 and December 31st, 2019. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Mary Green and Arthur Olson for terms to expire December 31st, 2020 and December 31st, 2019. Oh, and Jane Hanley Olson to the Ira F. Harris Lecture Trustees for a term to expire December 31st, 2020.
Any comments concerning this motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Unfinished business?
We have none?
New business?
None?
Okay. Would you make a motion to take out of committee?
I will make a motion to take from the table ordinance 18025.
Okay, any discussion?
Is a discussion enough to have
No, a
discussion?
discussion to take it from the table.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
I will make a motion to recommend final passage of ordinance 1825, just to get it on the, under discussion.
Okay. Okay, and could we have the city clerk, Ms. Piazza, come up? Okay, would you like to speak on this first, or? Alderman-
Sure, I'd be more happy to, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, we have had this tabled in committee after the communication from Economic Director Tim Cummings. On January 23rd, the Special Events Committee had a meeting. We did invite Alderman Lopez, but unfortunately, he had an emergency come up that he wasn't able to attend the meeting. So we had representatives there from the Economic Development Department, the Risk Department, Police, Fire, Health, and the Parks Department. Some of the committee members felt that the original intent of the legislation was to help the farmers market. But with this ordinance, 18025, this broadens the scope to not just street fair licenses, but all vendors, which would add a financial burden to some of the departments in carrying out the ordinance. So some of the discussion within the meeting and everything, a vendor's license is somebody that's coming in to be a vendor versus a street fair means that they need to, one, have a state hawkers and peddlers license through the state of New Hampshire. They have to have their name in good standing with the Secretary of State's office. So that is what a vendor is, compared to somebody that's doing a street fair license. They don't need that state hawkers and peddlers license because they're falling under a different category. With the farmers market currently, when new vendors are added, most require a health department approval. But also some may require us to receive approval from police, fire, or even the risk department, depending on what that vendor is planning to do. And that has happened in the past where we have had, unfortunately, with one of the farmers markets, we had a pig come in. So we then had to go through the health department, get health certificates, we had to get rabies certificates, we had to get additional insurance and everything. So it adds a lot of layers to the different departments and now going out and researching or looking for this additional documentation. Also, if it's a food vendor, then this will then require a staff member from the health department to do an inspection on site in order for them to receive the permit. So they have to go through the permitting process, but then the health department still needs to go there and inspect them. And at that point in time, they'll be issued their permit. Another concern that was raised with the health department is that they have had in the past, they've licensed the vendor and then they sub-vendor out their license. So they turn around and pass it, they take their approved license and rent it out to somebody else. So again, it's the managing of this. One of the other issues that was raised is that it can create a monopoly on certain areas of the city because of the season, because it's a 3-month period, which would then not allow others who wish to have events during those times. And one of the things that was discussed was Mine Falls Park. So somebody decides to take out a season license to do something in Mine Falls Park in one of the parks, that now will preclude anybody else being able to use that park for that season. Also concerned was any of the closure of streets and how it would affect certain parts of the city. If the streets, again, were closed for a season. Now, a season means that it's a 3-month period, and it can be closed 1 day a week. So if you have one vendor that would like to do this, and we close it off, or a street fair, and we close it off for that 1 day, then you can have another vendor coming in and want to do it another day. And then we start then looking at the different logistics and materials that may be required of the different departments that could, again, cause an additional burden on this. The committee also felt it'd be extremely difficult to hold accountable all the changes that would happen within that season. How do we account for the charges with the fees that need to be charged, the new licenses that would have to be issued, the additional insurance documents that may be needed, or the additional documents that we may need to submit to either outside agencies like the Liquor Commission, which has happened, and or the other city agencies. So that's some of the concerns that was brought up by the Special Events Committee in order to look at managing this plan going forward.
Did they give you a letter to that effect from that committee, or?
No,
No,
It was
okay.
it
more
was
of an
just a
ad hoc.
discussion.
Okay. Alderman Lopez, since you're the sponsor of that legislation, do you have anything to add, or
Yeah,
what
I
would
mean,
you
my
like to
original
do?
intent was, and it sort of stepped on the toes of an effort that Great American Downtown was working on with Director Cummings. So I kind of came into it having had it mentioned by them, but more specifically, when I was at the farmers market, some of the vendors expressed interest in having street fairs. So they were interested in having other locations where they could sell their wares, and I guess they were looking more for like a flea market kind of a model. And then I remembered personally that every year we come up with this like contrived lease system where we lease out a piece of city property for the Christmas season in exchange for free Christmas trees, which I mean that seems like it was a vendor fair, not a or a street fair, not a land deal or anything like that. But we were coming up with a methodology where we didn't have to have that person reapply for a permit every single week. They could just have it for the season, sell their trees, and then move on. And so that was my original conception behind this was we should have at least a model where people who wanted to have longer term presences for sales or that kind of stuff would have an option to do that. There was language originally proposed where the city would have the ability to just say no, like we don't want you to have that, or to consider the impact on specific areas like Mine Falls, so that you couldn't lock up the whole park. You could just say you're going to have an unfair impact on that, and that was kind of why I was hoping we would have the discussion with the different departments. But it seems like the only model we have in the city right now is the farmers market. It has its own strings and regulations. It has food involved. Um, you know, I think the issue's gotten so convoluted at this point that the result is the city departments aren't interested in this. It's not something that would serve them, and there isn't really a huge public outcry for it. So I'm not really inclined to push it forward any further. I just wanted to have the discussion in public as to what the concerns and the conditions were that would prevent it, because there was also some objection on the part of the public to having to constantly reapply for an event they had just done.
I'm going to amend my motion for indefinite postponement.
That was also why I was asking my question about, I mean, can we just have the conversation about whether we should pull it off or not?
All right. So the motion now is to indefinitely postpone 0-18-25. Is there any more discussion? Okay, I just want to say, we don't want to add more work to staff and departments than we need. But I do have a question concerning the farmer's market. And I know that they have to have the health department come down. I was not aware that people were renting their permits. But do these vendors have to apply every Sunday for the duration, or is this a one-time permit unless there's an issue?
So the way
At
that we
an
treat the farmer's market currently is that we license them on a monthly basis. So from Great American Downtown, he gives us a list of vendors for those individuals that will participate during the month. And those are the vendors that will go through the approval process. As he adds them on, I work with him as far as the charges go and everything like that. As a sub-licensee, he can charge up to $150 for somebody to participate in the market, and we charge $5 per vendor for the month, and then $10 per day for the event. So they are approved, so if he does it from June to October, and we have that list of vendors, those are the vendors that we'll carry through. And then we will sit there and work with him in adding on these additional vendors
As time goes on?
as time goes
Okay.
on. And then basically, we always request at least a 2-week period, because the fact is what health department will have to do. Some vendors, if it's not food related, would be able to come on right away, and they'll be able to participate in the next market. But otherwise than that, if the health department doesn't have all the necessary paperwork, they can't go out and inspect them on site.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because that means someone going on Sunday.
That's correct. So every month, we ask for Paul for an updated list of his vendors for that month, so that we know exactly who's participating. Because as a vendor, as a street, and when we issue the farmer's market, the street fair license, We also license other vendors in the city, and by issuing that street fair license, a vendor may have a license within the city, but that would not allow him to participate in the farmer's market, because that farmer's market's license is what covers what vendors can be there.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Lopez.
So there's like 3 different entities, so it can be a little bit confusing. The farmer's market is a specific act, which is like, it's regulated, and I mean, Patricia, City Clerk Pietzu can correct me if I get if I get lost. But the farmer's market has specific state regulations that also have to be followed and is a certain practice. Then there's a street fair, where the farmer's market looks like a street fair in that it has multiple vendors under one fair, and then there's your individual vendors. And so my understanding of the concern that was raised at the meeting was basically because I was imagining individual vendors that might have multi-week spots, and even with like say a flea market, you might have some sub vendors, but what you really are talking about is a person organizing that flea market. As soon as you do that, you create an umbrella which lets everybody come in underneath it, whether or not they've been vetted by the city as a vendor or not. So it was not what my plan was. I think the original intent by having street fair instead of some other model was because the farmer's market had very specific definitions to it. So we thought street fair would be simpler. I think it's just too far on the other side where anybody could lock down, say, Greeley Park for their seasonal street fair, and then anybody that they know can come underneath or whatever. But I don't think there was any. Are there instances of people actually subletting their vendors, or is that just their vendor licenses, or was that just like a concern?
We do not have it as far as the city goes, but the health department has had that where somebody has been approved for a license and then has some vended out. And I think Heidi Peak spoke with you a little bit on that.
Well, I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure if there was an actual
Yes,
like
it's my
someone
understanding
subletted
in
an
talking
ice
with
cream
her
truck
again today.
somewhere or something like that.
So if someone is doing that and gets caught, is there some kind of penalty?
I'm sure there is. It's
Okay,
through the health
with the
department.
health department? Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Alderman Lopez.
I mean, just as an example, if some hot dog truck decided to let the Boy Scouts take the truck and sell hot dogs to make money, that sounds all well and good, except that the health department doesn't know that any of those kids are trained on food handling or licensed to do any of that, or even supposed to be working back in the a
Right.
truck in the first place.
Right.
And if I may on that one,
Yes.
then he would definitely be found in violations because again, as a vendor's a hot dog, we are licensing the person that is selling. So he's not allowed to allow those children to
Right.
sell, and he would then risk losing his license or coming before this committee.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, the motion is to indefinitely postpone. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any discussion? None? No public comment? Remarks by Alderman? None? Okay, no public, non-public? Okay, Alderman Wilshire.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion is to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:41 PM. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I was kind of wondering what you were going to say now.